amazing. Okay, so she's only a mile away from me now. She lives out on the property. Oh my gosh, so I see her all the time. Over for coffee, she's come over for breakfast. She's been doing her laundry. Okay.
The property, and I sit there on what was going to be my lot and imagine it's out there. Every time I was out there, Janelle was gone. I would have ran into her, I would have said hi and talked to her, but yeah, it was weird.
Everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Monday, October 24th. Who watched the latest episode of Sister Wives? If you didn't watch the latest episode of Sister Wives, you didn't really miss a whole lot. And some parts of this episode, you don't even need to know happened. Well, I mean, some parts I thought, well, you know, if I'm going to do a recap video, I'm not going to really talk about that. And one part you aren't going to hear me react to is a conversation that Christine had on camera with Truly about her feelings about the divorce, which I just wasn't really fond of. I don't think a minor child needs to speak about that, and it really felt uncomfortable for me to watch. So definitely not gonna address that in the respect of like discussing the Truly's feelings, because honestly, I don't agree with it being put on the show at all. So what this video is going to be about is actually just going to be a couple of the cringy moments that I thought happened in this episode, and one in particular when it comes to Robyn and Janelle. So I've told you a million times on this channel that reality TV shows are not real. And and I feel like I have to have this conversation with so many of you a lot, because we watch the show and we like see it in a lens and we're like, oh, that's real. This is totally real. Everything that we're seeing is real. Except when you drill it down, right? Every scene can be shot multiple times. They can do retakes. If they miss a fight happening, they will reenact the fight, which I think some of these scenes are reenactments of arguments they may have had. And there's other aspects of producers building storylines, or Kody and the wives building manufactured, exaggerated storylines of their lives for drama. Kody is not one to shy away from creating drama for the show, so this is why there's certain parts of this that felt very fake. And one of them had to do with Robyn, but it was so cringy that I was like, okay, we're going to talk about this. And then in another episode today, or another video today, we'll talk about the conversation that Kody and Christine have about custody and splitting of the assets, because that's a whole nother mess. So before we get into this, Robyn's cringy watching and monitoring of Janelle, can you do me a favor? You guys, so I have this goal of hitting 300,000 subscribers, and I can't believe like I'm making amazing progress. So many of you are subscribing. So if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button, and on the way out, it's free, costs you nothing, and then you can hit notifications so you know when I go live or if new content loads, and give videos thumbs up and leave comments if you have something to say. Again, I'm super excited to see so many of you subscribing. Thank you all so much. I have a feeling I might make this goal of 300,000 by 2023. So let's dive into this part of the episode that I just want to talk about briefly. One of the huge factors of this whole narrative about Coyote Pass is, are they ever going to build? And there's a lot of discussion in the family about, you know, Mary believes there's other things going on in the family that need to be sorted out before they build. Other people like Christine want nothing to do with the property and are not going to build. And then you have Janelle and Robyn. Janelle is out on the property in an RV, allegedly believing that she's going to build a casita, and that having this property out, having the RV out on the property is somehow going to implore them to do work on the property. Okay. We've already been able to review that this is not true, because she took out a permit. We already know that this storyline is a little bit fake, because she took a permit out in 2021 for 4 months for summer. She only ever planned to have that RV out on the property for the summer months. And she never renewed it after that. And she took the trailer off and she doesn't live in the trailer anymore. And nothing was built on the property because she still owes money on the property. She can't build on the land until it's paid off. Before they could even build, there's a million things that this family has to do. And we'll get there in a second after we talk about this cringy part with Robyn. So now suddenly, Kody goes there to the property to level the RV, making sure that the RV is parked level so that inside, when they're inside, nothing's like this or like that. They want to make sure that, flat surfaces are flat. And apparently they're struggling with the leveling process. And he and Gabriel have some arguments about it. He says that Gabriel knows nothing about it. He and, Janelle are kind of arguing back and forth about it. He's being super dramatic. She wants to use planks. He's like annoyed. It's a thing, and it's just like watching a family argue about what they're going to do next kind of thing. Now, in the process of all that, Christine mentions that the benefit of having Janelle near on the Coyote Pass is that it's super, super close to her, and that Janelle has stopped over in the morning for coffee. She'll eat lunch or dinner with her sometimes. She comes over to do her laundry. She said that she sees Janelle all the time now that she's out on Coyote Pass.
She's amazing. Okay, so she's only a mile away from me now. She lives out on the property for coffee. She's come over for breakfast. She's been doing her laundry, okay? She's been doing her laundry in my house, which is, of course, great.
Because Coyote Pass has absolutely no, let me repeat this, no at all infrastructure. So Coyote Pass is just vacant land. And when I looked through the affidavit for purchase, when they purchased this property, it's actually privately owned land. So all the roads have to be taken care of by the Brown family. It's gated. So once they get inside, all the roads inside of that property will have to be completely maintained by the Browns. Additionally, there are no wells. There are no septic tanks. There's no electricity. There are no utilities actually running into the property. They have it up to where the gate is, but if they want to put in any utilities, they will have to put it in. Not only that, the water is an issue because they don't know if they didn't tap to see if there's actually water or an ability to bring a well in. So they might actually have to, what Kody was talking about, bring a tank of water in where they put the tank in and then they fill the water up in order to have water at their property. It's wild if you think about it. They went out and purchased a piece of property where you can't get a well, and you'll have to bring a septic tank in, and you'll have to have septic systems because there's no sewer, and then they have to maintain the property like they have to maintain all of the streets and the roads because the city will not maintain them because it's on private property. So they basically bought raw property that literally is undeveloped and completely nothing's there. In order for them to even be able to build, they have to bring in all of these utilities, which they have to pay for. They have to get the water. They have to get the septic. They are so far, and it's going to be super expensive. So you have to add that on top of build. It's insane. Not to mention the property. It's a known area that has prairie dog poison. It's like prairie dog plague. Because the prairie dogs have gotten sick in this area, the soil will have to be moved and tested to make sure that it's safe for them to live on because it's the bubonic plague that these prairie dogs have. And it's been in the news for a long time. They knew that this was a factor when they bought the property and they still bought it. So the soil on top of everything and underneath, like the droppings from the prairie dogs, it's contaminated. And they have to make sure that it's safe in order to live there. So they have so much to do that it makes you realize, why the hell would they have even bought this property knowing all of that ahead of time? Or could it have just been Kody, knowing how Kody is, just think it's not a big deal? Okay, so next, let's talk about this weird thing about Robyn. So they're not going to build there because they have tons and tons of stuff to do. So while Kody and Janelle are fighting about what they're going to do with the leveling, and they finally get it leveled, in the midst of all of that, they're not going to build on this property. They're fighting over the property. They're fighting over the leveling. And then somehow Robyn enters and she says that every once in a while she goes out to the property to sit on a bench and to just look at the property and dream.
I always go out to the property and I sit there on what was going to be my lot and imagine it's out there. Every time I was out there, Janelle was gone. If I would have ran into her, I would have said hi and talked to her, but yeah, it was weird.
And I thought, this doesn't even make sense. I don't even believe she's doing this. This is so weird to me. Like, she just has this rickety bench that's literally sitting out in the middle of Coyote Pass on her property, and she's just going to go sit there and stare at Janelle's trailer. It felt incredibly stalkerish. I was like, right, yeah, I don't believe this at all. So she's got this rickety old bench out there, and then she's got Janelle. She's like throwing shade about, you know, how if Janelle can get this to happen, she would be great because she really wants to live out in the property. This is her dream, to live out on this property. But suddenly we have insert rickety bench on the property, and she's basically staring at Janelle's property. And then she has to remind people that Janelle is never there anytime she's out there. And I'm like, so is she trying to imply that Janelle's just saying that she's living there in like theory? Or is she trying to imply that is she trying to compete with Christine? Because, you know, Christine's like, oh yeah, Janelle and I see each other all the time. And then and she's like, well, I go out there. Robyn's like, I go out there and I look at the property and I sit there, but Janelle's never there. It's weird.
If she is able to somehow get something going on the property, then yeah, she'll be my favorite person forever. Because like, that's all I want is to get on that property.
But if she was there, I would say hi. So we're supposed to like make it seem like it's Janelle's fault that they don't speak. And this could be, you know, how Robyn in the tell-all was saying how Janelle doesn't want to have a relationship with her and she's tried to talk with her and she won't. Are we setting this up so that Robyn feels like Janelle's avoiding her? P.S. Why would she always be at the property? If she's working, if she's traveling, if she's with her kids, if she's out running errands, she might not always be home. Are you always home? I'm not always home. It's just a whole level of freaky. And I remember thinking, like, this just doesn't even make sense. Has she ever mentioned having this bench out on the property? Has she ever mentioned that she just goes out there and sits? And more importantly, isn't it weird that you're like sitting out on the bench and you have your camera crew with you? That's weird to me. Like, why are you bringing your camera crew? That's weirder to me than Janelle not being home. It's weirder to me that you sit on a vacant property and you spy on Janelle. If this is true, my thought is, are you going out to the property to simply spy on Janelle to make sure she's doing what she says she's doing so you can report back to Kody so you can see what Kody's doing with Janelle? Do you get a feeling sometimes that Robyn is so insecure about her relationship with Kody that she like would track him wherever he goes? Because, you know, last week it was like Robyn can't be away from him and the kids can't be away from him for 2 to 3 days. So did Robyn put out that bench? Did she put this bench out on her property so she could go there and watch Kody while he's at Janelle's house? It makes no sense, and it just seems like it's a way for Robyn to feel like she's included, or including herself. And it's, again, she's always throwing shade at Janelle. She's always finding a way to underhand or undermine Janelle. Last week, it was insulting Janelle and the girls making fun of Savannah's sleeping arrangements and insulting Janelle for living in a trailer, which, by the way, I went and did some Google searches and found some houses that she lived in. And while she didn't live in a trailer per se, the houses that she was living in prior to being on the show were very poorly maintained homes. Some of them look like they're completely condemned now when I searched on Google. So if she's gonna like try to play like no one should live in a trailer, maybe she should just like remember where she came from. That's just my thought. So you have Robyn faking the storyline that I don't like. You just put this bench out there. Like, how did the bench get out there? And why would you just put this bench out there? I don't believe it. And a lot of you didn't believe it either. A lot of you felt like it was super fake. And some of you just flat out thought that it was stalkerish if this is actually a true storyline. Right now, I feel like they're really low on storylines because the family is so fractured. And I feel like they're trying to find anything to cause drama and create interest. And listen, it's causing us to have this conversation. But the bottom line is they have way too much work to do on this property. They have to pay it off first, and then once they pay it off, they have to spend all that money just to get it ready to build. And they have a ton of work to do just to get it to that point. Not to mention the contaminated soil, not to mention the fact that they owe a bunch of money on the property. Not to mention they own property in Flagstaff, and Robyn has a $1.2 million home. Why do they need to build? They don't. So, Robyn is stalking Janelle. Do you think that she actually has this rickety old bench out there and does this? Or do you think that she is lying and creating this for drama? And if she is doing this, don't you think it's creepy? Does this make you feel like it's even creepier that she spies on Janelle? Is she admitting, even if she, so say this is true, is she admitting that she's stalking Janelle? Because that's gross and super creepy. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.